Welcome to another Explainer. Today, we're investigating a fascinating global mystery. We're going to look at how one specific currency, the US dollar, acts as the hidden, underlying operating system for the entire world economy.
To really wrap our heads around this, I want you to imagine you're sitting in a shop in Nairobi, Kenya, and you're buying a smartphone that was manufactured in China. Now, you pay the shopkeeper in Kenyan shillings, but the manufacturer back in China, well, they obviously want Chinese yuan. Yet, bridging that gap, working entirely behind the scenes of that local, everyday transaction, the US dollar is almost certainly stepping in as this invisible, ultimate middleman.
So we have to ask the big question, right? Why does a currency issued by one single country have such undeniable, massive influence over trillions of dollars in global trade? Why do countries that are sitting on completely opposite sides of the globe with absolutely no direct ties to the US still rely so heavily on its money just to do business with one another?
Well, honestly, it all comes down to friction. Think about it. If a Kenyan company wants to buy heavy machinery from a Japanese supplier, they hit an immediate roadblock. The Japanese supplier doesn't want Kenyan shillings, and the Kenyan buyer doesn't exactly have a vault full of Japanese yen lying around. The world desperately needed a common financial language to just remove that massive headache, and the US dollar stepped right in to fill that exact role.
But it's actually fascinating to realize it wasn't always this way. If we look back before the 20th century, the British pound was the currency ruling global finance. But after two world wars pretty much shattered European economies, the United States emerged as this undisputed economic superpower, and that led to the pivotal 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement. This basically linked the world's major currencies directly to the dollar, and then linked the dollar directly to gold.
Now, seeing that the US suspended the dollar's direct link to gold back in 1971, you might be asking yourself a very logical question right now. Is the US dollar still backed by physical gold, sitting in some giant vault somewhere today?
The answer is a massive no. It is a fiat currency. And all that means is that its massive global value relies entirely on trust in the US economic system rather than some fixed promise of a shiny metal. Now, when the gold standard ended, a lot of people actually expected the dollar to just instantly lose its power. But surprisingly, the world was already way too deeply wired into the American financial system to just pull the plug.
So after the gold standard ended, the dollar stayed on top largely because of this massive new dynamic, the petrodollar system. Oil is literally the lifeblood of the modern world. And because international oil trade became heavily priced and traded in dollars, it effectively forced every single energy-hungry country on Earth to hold US dollars. They had to, just to keep their lights on and their factories running. Simply put, if you wanted energy, you needed dollars, period.
But it's not just about oil. It's about having a safe, reliable place to actually park your wealth. Imagine you want to instantly sell $1 million, or heck, even $1 billion asset tomorrow. You desperately need a market packed with active buyers so you aren't just left stranded. The sheer, unprecedented scale of the US Treasury market provides exactly this essential liquidity. It's like this massive, incredibly deep financial ocean where enormous amounts of assets can be bought and sold at a moment's notice without crashing the price.
And that unmatched liquidity is exactly why central banks all around the globe stockpile the dollar in their reserves. It perfectly checks off every single box you'd want for a stable safety net. It's reliable, highly liquid, widely accepted, and incredibly easy to use across borders. If a country faces a sudden, unexpected crisis, having a massive vault of US dollars is pretty much the ultimate financial shield.
What this really exposes is a massive network effect. It's a lot like a new social media app, right? The app only becomes truly useful when all your friends actually join it. The dollar's dominance creates this exact same self-sustaining cycle. Companies use dollars because their suppliers do. Banks use them because other banks use them. So more users create more liquidity, which builds greater global trust, and that in turn attracts even more users. It just compounds.
And when you combine that compounding cycle with the raw economic might of American tech giants and global institutions, you get this unbreakable ecosystem of trust. It proves a really fascinating reality. Military power alone absolutely cannot force global currency adoption. You can't just point a tank at someone and force them to hold your paper. Nations have to genuinely want to hold it.
Which brings us to the rising challengers in what we could call the heavyweight matchup of global finance. We hear a lot about the euro or the Chinese yuan stepping into the ring, but here's the thing. Replacing the dollar isn't just about printing a strong currency. These challengers currently lack the incredibly deep financial markets and that massive supply of safe, liquid assets that are absolutely required to unseat the champion.
That being said, the dollar isn't totally invincible. There are real, structural cracks starting to show that are causing some nations to explore workarounds.
For instance, the massive U.S. national debt is a growing concern. Plus, the use of financial sanctions as a geopolitical tool has definitely frustrated other economies. You add the rapid rise of digital currencies into that mix, and you've got a clear recipe for countries actively trying to build alternative payment networks just to protect their own interests.
So what does this all mean? Well, rather than a sudden, overnight collapse of the dollar, we're likely slowly shifting toward a multipolar financial system. This is a very plausible future where the US dollar loses some of its absolute, unquestioned monopoly, but, remains incredibly important. In this scenario, it simply has to share the stage. Currencies like the euro, the yuan, and potentially some new digital frameworks would start taking on larger, more distinct roles.
When we zoom out and look at the big picture, the ultimate takeaway from all of this is that the dollar's greatest strength isn't the physical paper note itself, or the ink printed on it. Its true power is the deeply interwoven global network built around it. It is powerful precisely because the entire world has spent the last 80 years organizing its economic reality to use it.
But history guarantees us one thing for sure. No economic system remains unchanged forever. The British pound once ruled the world, and today the dollar sits in that exact same chair. So I want to leave you with this to ponder. Will the US dollar maintain its iron grip for another half-century? Or are we standing right on the verge of a brand new, decentralized digital system rewriting the rules of global money entirely? It's a fascinating question to consider. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer today. I'll catch you in the next one.